Very good. All right. Good morning, everyone. I hope you had a wonderful weekend in the beautiful weather. Let's go ahead and call the San Diego LAFCO meeting to order. It's March 2nd, 2026. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll? Hold on. Forgot to do that.
There it is. Willed that power, man.
Commissioner Becker,
Present.
Commissioner Willis,
Here.
Commissioner Aguirre is absent. Commissioner Anderson is absent. Commissioner Browning, Commissioner McKenzie, Commissioner White, Commissioner Whitburn is absent. Alternate Commissioner McCann,
Present.
Alternate Commissioner Drake, Alternate Commissioner Montgomery Stepp is absent. Alternate Commissioner Delaney.
Here.
Alternate Commissioner Von Wilpert is absent. So there are 5 voting members present, and the meeting was called to order at 8:15 a.m.
Very good. Thank you. Mayor McCann, will you please honor us and lead us in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Do we have any statements from commissioners participating remotely?
No.
Good. All right, let's begin with a review of today's agenda. Mr. Simons, is there anything you want to touch on?
Thank you, Chair Becker, and good morning, Commissioners. So no changes to the agenda itself. Everything that was put on the agenda and published on Monday has held. I would ask, with the Chair's indulgence, that we could take one item out of order. We're lucky to have the City Manager of Carlsbad in attendance today. And so if you'd be kind enough to move 6B out of order to happen before 6A and allow Mr. Patone to provide some testimony before you continue the item, that would be great. Also, you do have a couple of pieces of supplemental correspondence on the dais. Both relate to 6A in staff, and that's the draft work plan and budget, and staff will make reference to those items as we provide the presentation. So other than taking 6B out of order ahead of 6A, we're good to go.
Okay, very good. Do we have any non-agenda public comments today?
None.
Very good. All right, thank you. Now let's take up the consent items, which are items 5A through 5F. And any public comment on those items, consent items? Very good. Is there a second? All right. Madam Clerk, please call the roll on the consent items.
Commissioner Becker,
Yes?
Commissioner Willis,
Aye.
Commissioner McKenzie, Commissioner Browning, Commissioner White. So there are 5 in favor, 0 opposed, with 3 absent. The motion passes.
Good. All right. That brings us to our item 6B. It's a request to continue a draft municipal service review, City of Carlsbad, and this is an action item.
Thank you, Chair. So as mentioned, as we provided in the agenda report, we had hoped to bring the commission the draft municipal service review covering the City of Carlsbad. However, during the 60-day administrative review process, Carlsbad provided your staff some substantive comments. So we have prepared a more thorough update than we had anticipated. So we thought it best to give the city 30 days to review that item. Nonetheless, today is an opportunity for the commission to formally open the item, receive any testimony available, and we do have City Manager Patone here, and then proceed with continuing the item without a formal staff presentation, which we will do for you. Thank you.
Okay, very good. First, let me ask if there's any commissioners that have any public disclosures on this item. Being none. All right, well, let's go ahead and take the public comment. Jeff Patno.
Hey, good morning. This is Jeff Patton. I'm the city manager of the city of Carlsbad. I wanted to first thank the LAFCO board for this service and for the interest that you have in the municipal service review process and an interest in the city of Carlsbad. These are important documents and reviews performed by your body for local agencies, and we value the report that comes back. Now, coming from a city's perspective, the MSR process always tends to provide a little bit of anxiety for cities and even from agencies. I think about MSRs the same way that I think about a colonoscopy. It's important. It's important, but the preparation is often the worst part. When you are all finished, you are glad that it's over. And if something is discovered, you are pleased that you may have time to address it and correct it. And if you do have a clean bill of health, you say thank you, and we'll see you again in 5 or 10 years. So in the end, like colonoscopy, you're certainly glad it's over, and we're looking forward to the end of this process for us. Now, our experience working with LAFCO, excuse me, has been extremely positive. The collaboration with the staff, with Keen, Michaela, your consultant, Adam Wilson, has been extremely positive. They have held our hand. They have worked diligently to try to get the data and the information correct. So I'm grateful that they're going to spend a little bit more time on some of the areas that we've been working with them on. This process has been working as it should be. It's collaborative. It's agencies working together. So I'm optimistic that this will be a positive MSR for Carlsbad. If it's not, my predecessor was city manager at the time, so it'll be his cross to bear. But I do want to just say thank you for this process, and we'll be back again when the full report comes out. Thank you very much.
Thank you for taking the time to come down here today. Commissioners, do you have any objections to continuing this? Oh, can you not hear? Sorry. Is it on?
It is on.
Okay, very good. All right. Anybody have any, or are we all in agreement that we continue this until the April 6th commission meeting? Very good. All right, may I have a motion, please? Very good. Madam Clerk, call for the vote.
Commissioner Becker,
Yes.
Commissioner Willis, Commissioner McKenzie, Commissioner Browning, Commissioner White.
Yes.
There are 5 in favor, 0 opposed, with 3 absent. The motion passes.
Very good. Thank you very much. All right, let's go back to 6A. That's the proposed draft work plan and budget for fiscal year 2026, 2027. And this too is an action item.
Thank you, Chair. So I'm actually going to at least start this item off, and I'm clicking due, and nothing's happening. Here we go. All right. So as I mentioned, Chair and Commissioners, Keen Simons for the record. So I'm going to start us off on this item, and I may ask and recruit Priscilla Mumpower to help me along the way, but this item is for the Commission to take the first of what will be 2 formal steps in your work plan and budget adoption process. Today, the Commission has before you draft versions of both of these planning documents. Should the Commission see fit to approve them in whatever changes you may want to make on the dais, staff will go ahead and initiate a formal 30-day public review and comment period. And then that will also, I should say, include plan presentations to the Cities Advisory Committee and Special Districts Advisory Committee later this month. And then we would bring back final versions of both items to you for adoption at your May meeting. And so what I thought I would do, because we are kind of doing a twofer here, is perhaps indulge the Commission, or with the Commission's indulgement, take about 15 to 20 minutes, walk you through both of these items somewhat at a high level, speaking about the key changes that we are making, but as well as talking about and affirming the things that we want to continue to plan and resource. Certainly, we are ready to go into the details, but perhaps what we can do is, unless there are some questions along the way that I can easily answer, we could hold off on a more detailed discussion as part of the commission's deliberations and the opening and hearing from the public. So with that as a game plan, what I thought I would do now is just kind of talk about themes that permeate both of these planning documents. And certainly the theme of themes, if you will, is that from your staff's perspective, both of these items represent continuity for the commission in terms of what you are already up to or what you are already resourcing at San Diego LAFCO. Now, that said, commission, there are some targeted enhancements that we are bringing forward to the dais. And in one particular case, that enhancement involves what I would call a structural true-up that we'll want to spend some time on. But the continuity itself is reflected in the work plan before you that largely, not entirely, but largely takes your existing commitments, 30 special projects this year, and rolls them forward, albeit with some changes in order into fiscal year 27. The changes being limited to moving up some projects that right now are in the lower part of your work plan and advancing them up as other projects have either been completed or we anticipate being completed by the end of the fiscal year. An example being right now, one of your top priority projects is the Carlsbad Municipal Service Review. Well, we anticipate be done with that by June, so that's going to fall off and that provides some space going forward. The continuity is also reflected in the draft budget before the commission, in that we are largely looking to maintain the status quo with some internal enhancements that are marked by adding potentially a 9th full-time position in the form of a full-time analyst 1. The net result is what I would consider a rather modest overall increase in your operating expenses of about 3.4%. Now, where the continuity deviates a bit, and we are proposing a rather substantive change, is how this commission goes about apportioning your operating costs to the funding agencies. And in particular, and I anticipate this being a more lengthy part of my presentation, but for the thematic part of it, what we're asking the commission today to do is to tentatively approve a restructuring of how we apportion the agencies by no longer budgeting reserves as offsetting revenues. The brass tacks of that move would be asking the funding agencies not to pick up the additional 3.4% rise in our otherwise baseline operating cost commission, but to make up that plus the amount of reserves that we have budgeted this year, and the delta being about $408,000 or about 19% of an overall increase. I will go into more detail on that component in a bit. So with those themes in mind, let's start with getting a little further focus into the work plan. So its structure remains the same. So for the last several years, the commission creates a 30 numbered work plan that's divided into these 3 tiers: high, medium, and low. Those tiers all represent various components of the LAFCO business, whether it's statutory requirements, studies, updates, sphere updates, or administrative projects, policies, or organizational fine-tuning. Looking at the high priority projects, the 10, most of them, Commission, are going to be familiar to you. In fact, the top 3 are all being carried forward from this fiscal year. They all involve high priority municipal service reviews that we're certainly well into, but we think and believe that they're going to require some substantive work that's going to bleed well into the fiscal year, some more than others. So the top 3 projects, and I'll just put this up on the screen. Here's all 10. Continue to be a municipal service review on the County Water Authority and Met. a service review on San Diego healthcare districts, and then a service review on Sandak. Those three are exactly the same in placement as they are in fiscal year 26. The changes start at number 4, and that is adding and memorializing the time needed to process the La Jolla Incorporation. Typically, Chair Becker and Commissioners, we don't put proposal work on your work plan, but in this particular case, I think for obvious reasons, it is going to be a relatively heavy lift. And even though consultants will cover your staff time in processing this proposal, it's still going to require staff resources to address. So that has made its entry into the high priority projects, as well as a couple of organizational items that I'm going to come back to when we talk about the budget. But again, by and large, your high priority projects are the same from this year as we propose going into next year. A full listing of all the work plan projects are provided on page 193 of your agenda packet. And I want to add 2 additional comments to this. So when you look at the work plan as presented, obviously not only are we asking the commission today in a tentative form to approve these 30 projects as your priorities for the upcoming fiscal year, we're also asking that you confirm or change the order of their priority placement. You will see at the bottom of the work plan about 30 additional activities. We call them bullpen activities that are there for telegraphing purposes that speak to other activities, whether statutory prompts or planning or administrative prompts that we also believe have merit, although we haven't at the staff level suggested that they be prioritized as actionable items for fiscal year 27. But in looking at that, certainly the commission may see a bullpen item that you collectively view as being more timely and pertinent than something that's in the work plan. Well, today is an opportunity to identify that and move things around. I also want to note that we know at staff there's at least one project, I think it's in the teens, that we probably will drop from the work plan based on conversations recently with representatives from Rincon, Del Diablo, including Commissioner Drake. We had moved up from the bullpen this year into the work plan next year. This governance study that we've had on our minds since we prepared the Escondido Region Municipal Service Review, a governance study that would look at potential consolidation opportunities, functional and political, between the city and the district, given they have shared boundaries and shared service responsibilities. As Commissioner Drake has mentioned to me, Rincon is going through a general manager search. I believe the city of Escondido has also had a change in its public works director position. So understandably, it's not the best year to pick up on a governance study. So that's one area that we will open up. Should the commission have any thoughts about what to fill in for that study, we're all ears. Otherwise, we would look at it and bring you back a suggestion in May. So that's the work plan. Now let's talk about how we anticipate funding the work plan. So overall, and it is somewhat misleading, but overall, you're actually looking at a proposed budget that anticipates a rather sizable overall decrease of about 8%. So right now, your overall budget at LAFCO is $3.1 million. What we're proposing that it go down to $2.9 million, but that is entirely a function of our non-operating units winding down their grant activities with the state of California, the SALT program. The real number that you should be paying attention to is the operating budget. Obviously, the day-to-day activities at LAFCO. That number is proposed to go up by the aforementioned 3.4%, or about $90,000. And that cuts across both of your core operating units. You have your salaries and benefits unit, which currently provides resources for 8 full-time employees. And then you have a service and supplies unit that provides all of the administrative support. The key change on a policy level, it's actually not the driver to the majority of the increase, right? The increase being 90,000, but about 30,000 of that is taking shape in the form of staff asking that the commission provide for the addition of a 9th staff member at LAFCO in the form of a analyst 1 position, a position that would assume responsibilities currently asked of our consultants in doing municipal service review work, albeit in a little different format. Right now, we ask consultants, among other things, to help us with upfront public-facing MSR work, which is great. We still need that service, but we increasingly need help in the middle to back end of actually writing up the municipal service reviews. So staff is asking the commission to fund a 9th position, which on its own is about a $100,000 investment starting in fiscal year 27. Staff is proposing that you cover about 2/3 of that cost by moving monies that are currently allocated to your professional services account, about 70,000 of that, to your salaries and benefits. So the net effect, commission, is a $30,000 investment in a new position starting in fiscal year 27. So again, the net effect of what staff is proposing to bring in a new analyst 1 by moving some monies around is a $30,000 increase to your operating budget starting in fiscal year 27. Now, with respect to the other $60,000 that we're asking the commission to increase your bottom line, your operating costs, again, the 90,000, 30,000 going to the staff analysts. The remaining 30,000 is a combination of the commission has previously authorized a 3% cost of living adjustment, which parallels what the County of San Diego did last year. We are also experiencing scheduled increases in our office rent at 2550 Fifth Avenue. And then, even though it's not a huge amount, it is a discussion point that I know the commission has had. We are asking that you put monies into the budget, in particular the service and supplies unit, to cover 2 memberships and not 1. Right now, we have 1 membership for a membership association, and that's going to the Alliance of LAFCOs, which is essentially our brethren in Southern California. Because we see the value in both, we are also asking that the commission put monies aside to potentially fund a return to Cal-LAFCO, a decision that the commission will make at a date coming up once Cal-LAFCO has a rather critical vote coming up with their bylaws. Nevertheless, those 3 changes that I just referenced make up the 60,000 of the total $90,000 increase in the budget that we're asking you for. Again, the COLA, the office rent, and the membership account.
Can you remind us what the membership account numbers
Yes.
are?
So the membership account right now, I know it's proposed to go up by about $15,000, and maybe Priscilla could help me with the specifics of what we're budgeting for membership this year and next. But in short, the membership account includes things in addition to potentially Cal-LAFCO and already the Alliance of LAFCOs, things like SAN-GIS, which is our JPA with other local agencies in the county to work on GIS programs. CSDA, even though we're not a special district, we participate in their member-serving activities. And there's probably a couple others that I can follow up with some details.
Moving from 34,800 to 48,800.
Yeah. So about a $15,000, which percentage-wise is a big jump for that account. But again, it's primarily for allocating funds not only to stay the course with the Alliance, which I am a fan of, but also to return perhaps to participate in Cal-LAFCO. So that is the operating cost on the, operating side of the budget. We're asking that the commission green light an increase of $90,000 or 3.4%. Where things start getting substantively different is when we flip the side of the ledger to the revenue side, okay? And by the way, just up on the screen, some more details that I think I covered with respect to what is being proposed for changes in the salary and benefits unit and then the service and supplies.
Excuse me, is there a way to turn the lights down just a little bit? I have the charts, but I didn't bring my magnifying glass.
Okay,
So
I'm gonna look,
That
I'm
would
just
be
gonna make eye
helpful. Thank you.
contact with Aiden and hopefully he'll figure this out. But as Aiden figures out the lighting situation, just for the benefit of the record, so in all, your salaries and benefits would go up 8.2%, but actually your service and supplies would go down by 3.7. The net effect again. That's very nice. I like the mood. Thank you. So
Hire that guy.
done. So let us now turn to the more substantive comment and issue with what we're bringing to the commission, and that is your revenue and apportionment. So a quick primer for our newer commissioners and certainly those watching at home, the general public. LAFCOs are blessed with a prescribed revenue base as set by the legislature. It was established many years ago when the decision was by the legislature, okay, local agencies want to be in control of local boundary changes. Let's do this. Let's move that decision away from Sacramento and let's create these LAFCOs in every county, and LAFCOs will administer a set of state planning laws. But the trade-off is they've got to self-fund LAFCO, continue to live 70 years or so later. And so the apportionment process in statute is intended to largely be self-funding, i.e., whatever the commission decides is its operating budget, notionally on paper, that full amount gets apportioned to the county, the cities, and the independent special districts, and there's a formula that takes care of that. Now, the legislature also allows commissions at their own discretion to budget other offsetting revenues. So, for example, this LAFCO's practice has always been to budget a certain amount of application fees. Since I've been here, it's about $200,000 a year or about 10 to 12% of our operating costs. Nothing has changed. That's the same number you see in the draft budget before you. What is changing is the amount of offsetting revenues that this commission would budget. So, since certainly COVID, this commission, and for good reasons, has consistently and in recent years increasingly increased the amount of your reserves that you budget as offsetting revenues for purposes of capping and or lowering the apportionment that would otherwise be shared among all of your funding agencies. So, based on not funding or not using any reserves, and we're going to talk more about this, the total apportionment to the funding agencies isn't the 3.4% increase in your operating costs, but rather about 18.7%. And the breakdown is shown up on the screen. And then also, with the help of staff, all the commissioners will see a breakdown on how this potential amount would be divvied up between the two variable of the four funding categories, specifically the at-large cities and the special districts. Keep in mind, the County of San Diego, we know whatever number you choose as the apportionment amount, they pay 28.5%. City of San Diego, they know whatever amount you set as the apportionment, they pay 14.5%. The at-large cities collectively pay 28.5%, but it's based on revenue collection the prior year. So it moves with that number. Same with special districts. just for the benefit of why some numbers move rapidly than other years. When cities or districts receive grant money or other government subventions, it skews the revenue amount. So some years, a particular city or district is going to get a jump in their LAFCO apportionments. But what you see largely in that Excel sheet, most cities and most independent districts' numbers in terms of their percentage of the pie has been pretty consistent, with one exception for the special districts, and I'll talk about that in a second. But as to the why is staff coming to you today in recommending that you not budget any monies from your reserves as offsetting revenues? Well, it applies to your policy. So I know Commissioner McKenzie was here, perhaps Commissioner Willis, but in 2019, the commission, and at the time, times are good, so the focus was actually thinking about what kind of policy we needed to address the ceiling of our reserves. Not necessarily the floor, but here we are. But nevertheless, at the time, the commission saw fit to create a guardrail that ultimately said no more than 6 months of reserve should be available in unassigned monies, but no less than 4 months of unassigned monies should be available. In the 4 months, and I'll defer to Commissioner McKenzie if her memory is a bit different than mine, but I believe the reason the commission landed on 4 months of a minimum reserve policy is when you send out your invoices on July 1st, naturally it's going to take some agencies more than a month, perhaps a couple of months, to turn in their checks to LAFCO. And the idea being, after 4 months, we should have collected just about all of the agency apportionments. But that 4-month window provides us a runway to operate should invoices be collected at a slower rate. Your first and foremost, though, priority is always to make sure that you have 4 months of operating reserves available in unassigned monies. The policy goes on to say, and this is important context, should you have additional monies, the commission should designate a sufficient amount that you see appropriate for one of two committed purposes: stabilization, i.e., unbudgeted shortfalls that were not expected, not budgeted shortfalls, but unexpected shortfalls, and the other being opportunity cost. An example that I know this commission has cited as an potential opportunity cost would be purchasing a LAFCO office space rather than being a tenant. That at least has been on the minds of commissioners in the past. So now this is all the context, commission, to where you are today with your reserves. And so take a second, the best you can, to absorb these numbers and these two things that are occurring at the same time that are slightly squeezing us. We're still in a good position, commission, but we are in a position where two things are happening at once, and it's creating less options each year for us. One is when the commission approved its policy in 2019, your operating costs translated to a minimum reserve policy of about $631,000. Well, your operating costs have gone up about 4% each year on average. So the floor that you have to reach has gotten higher. So the proposed draft that you have today would require $924,000 be available in unassigned monies, which we have. The challenge, though, is, as you can see on the second column, we have not been putting monies away for reserves. We have instead been using reserves as offsetting revenues. So the amount of total reserves available to you has been slowly going down since COVID. And this current fiscal year, the commission, and for reasons that we can all remember, and good reasons, decided to allocate about $317,000 of your reserves as offsetting revenues. That means come July 1st of this year, your total reserves will drop down to 1,362,000. Still a good amount of money, given our operating budget is 2.7. But what it does mean is your monies that you would have available for committed uses, stabilization, or opportunity is going to drop down to about a little more than $400,000. It has been the commission's preference, not a policy, but a preference over the last few years to try to keep that number closer to the $650,000, $700,000 range. So therein lies this recommendation that your staff is bringing to you, which is a cold turkey true up where you would not budget any monies to your from reserves as part of your operating revenues. Certainly the commission has choice or has discretion here. You could choose to continue to put reserves available, but certainly in doing so, keep in mind that your options will continue to get a little slimmer the further you go down this path. Now, before I'm done, and I apologize, I've probably gone over 15 minutes.
What I've seen.
I know, I'm sorry, but I love the numbers. I'm guilty. I love the numbers. So thank you. Last but not least, so when you look at the special districts apportionment, there is an outlier. Their proposed increase to the LAFCO apportionment overall is not the 12.9% that the County of San Diego, the City of San Diego, the at-large cities are receiving. Their number would go up 35%. And that is because Commission, last year, the Commission provided a credit of a little more than $100,000 to the special districts. And that money was actually negotiated by then Chair Whitburn as part of our settlement or our MOU with the Port of San Diego. It was in recognition that the port was now joining LAFCO. The other special districts had all been funding LAFCO for years and years. So an amount of money was made available and passed on to the other special districts as recognition as a credit. So the key comment here is while the special districts volume number is going up overall by 35% from this year to next, it remains lower than what the special districts were paying 2 years ago before the Port of San Diego joined the LAFCO apportionment process. In fact, if you look at the spreadsheet provided, with one exception involving, of all districts, Jacumba Community Services District, they're still seeing an increase, and I'm not sure why, but nevertheless, every special district, all 58 other special districts in San Diego are still going to be paying less at LAFCO in 27 than they did in fiscal year 25. I raise that because one of the comments you have in your supplementals is a comment letter from the Lower Sweetwater Fire Protection District. And understandably, they are looking at a budget number that on paper says their overall district apportionment's going up 35%. I would just add for the record, well, going back to fiscal year 25, Lower Sweetwater and just about every other special district's apportionment is still going to be substantially less than what it was just 2 years ago by virtue of this commission bringing the port into the fold. So I've covered a lot of ground. Recommendations are up on the screen, Chair Becker. I know you have some comment requests to speak. Your staff is here ready to get into the details, just ready.
Okay, good.
So thank you so much for your indulgence.
Very good. All right, let's go ahead and, are there any commissioner ex parte communications that we'd like to disclose? All right, very good. So let's turn to the public comment. And we do have one online. Is that? I do see one online, but let's go ahead and go with Kurt Warden first.
Do I get my 3-minute timer?
Yeah, where is that?
Okay.
Is getting that up and running.
Okay.
There it is.
I won't be that long anyway. So Chair Becker, Commissioners, thank you. My name's Kurt Warden. I'm representing Lower Sweetwater Fire Protection District. Our district's revenue is fixed by law under Revenue and Taxation Code 96.1, and the district receives its net share of 1% property tax levy. We can't raise or generate new revenue, and we're required to operate entirely within that allocation every year. LAFCO's funding is governed by Government Code 56381, which requires apportioning LAFCO's net operating costs to the cities, the county, independent special districts in proportion to their share of the countywide tax base. That means an increase to LAFCO's budget is taken directly from the same fixed tax base that funds fire and safety services. So the agenda notes that the proposed 18.7 or 35% increase in apportionment is entirely attributable to eliminating your reserves and as offsetting revenues. For the district, that is the core concern. When our district faces cost pressures, we can't eliminate the reserves one year and restore them the next through double-digit increases. So we have to live within the allocation provided by the statute, and LAFCO should be held to that same discipline. The reserve policy that allows LAFCO to create internal volatility and then externalize it onto agencies with fixed statutory revenues is not consistent with the intent of Government Code 56381, which presumes stable, predictable apportionments tied to the tax base. The district's position is simple. LAFCO should operate within the allocation produced by the statutory apportionment formula, just as the districts that fund the commission are required to do. Thank you.
Thank you. We now have Alicia Morrison.
Good morning, Chair, Commission, and staff. I concur with what Kurt Warden just said. I come from the community that is a disadvantaged unincorporated community of Lincoln Acres. Joel, it's fine. We are a community that is very proud of our community. We oppose and protest anytime there's any type of annexation that comes in for our community. The reason why is because as our size diminishes through piecemeal annexations, and I do have a very strong grievance for the 50.5 acres that was taken back in 2019, it makes us vulnerable. So like Mr. Warden was saying, 1% is what we get. We don't get to create revenue. We don't get to have new money. So when you're increasing staff and you have a commission that is of 8 voting members, why isn't there a commission of 9 voting members to offset when there's a tie vote? That's one of the things that I would like to see this commission do. Not that it has anything to attribute to the budget, but yet it does, because you're asking to increase a member of the staff. Pre-approved cost of living adjustments. People in disadvantaged and corporate communities don't always get that, like Lower Sweetwater Fire Protection District. Yet our district is asked by the contracting city that provides a service to buy them new vehicles, to buy them new fire trucks. You know, what does that do to our budget? It takes us a while to help replenish that budget. So I would like for this commission to do an alternative, is to continue consideration for this item to the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. And do we have an online speaker for public comment? Yes.
Lower Sweetwater.
Their hand's not raised, so they might just be.
Okay, very good. All right, very good. Okay, so let's turn to the commission comments, questions. Yes. Commissioner Browning?
So I had two questions. One, so I see that the legal looks like a new item in 27, but I'm sure it wasn't a new item before and I can't find it. What line item is it in?
Thank you, Commissioner Browning. So up until, or actually through this year, legal costs have been budgeted as part of your professional services account, and it's been grouped with other consultant-like charges. So what we have done for this upcoming budget is segregate legal costs at the same amount. So this year you budgeted 80,000. It was bundled with others and create a standalone account going forward.
Yes, Commissioner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a question to Commissioner Willis that's unexpected. And through the chair, I was wondering what his thoughts were. He represents all the special districts. I believe that that issue that was brought before us is consistent with, I believe, all the special districts, but perhaps Commissioner Willis could speak to it.
Yeah. I do go out, as I'm sure you all know, I go out and visit all the special districts. So my initial impression of, and they are all on tight budgets, especially the smaller districts. And so when I heard that we were considering 18.7%, my instant thought was, shit, sticker shock. When we do with our own budgets, don't we go into a car dealership, we think it's going to be $400. It ends up being $1,200. I am just going to say for the record that I'm a hard no on this proposal. I would like to see alternative proposed budgets, one possibly without the ninth position being added on, and what other ways that we all have to cut our budgets. And I just get the sense when I go to special districts, you know, they're struggling. I don't think that I think the last thing you want to see is an 18% increase in their LAFCO fees. That's my thoughts on the matter.
Very good. Any other comments or questions? Would it be helpful if we separated this out and maybe talked about the work plan first and make sure that maybe everyone's in agreement on those 30 projects or the order or that type of thing? Or is that going to confuse things? I feel like that makes it a little bit easier. I feel like there's two separate issues here. So maybe we can come to agreement on at least the work plan. We have, yes, please. Commissioner White.
I just wanted to affirm what our CEO said about Escondido not quite being ready to pursue that study. We have been through 2 directors of utilities, and right now we're working with an interim. And I think the district tonight is going to appoint their director. So I am fine with pushing that down the road or down the priority list for now.
Okay, good. Commissioner Drake.
I concur.
Very good. Okay. Anybody else on the work plan order or the special items? Maybe bringing the one about 9 commissioner members, maybe moving that up or anything like that?
I think that's legislation.
Well, it's on the work plan in the other items, right?
Right.
So the commission could, as you have for other legislative ideas, decide to make that a project and work with a local author in developing, should that be the will of the collective commission.
Yes, Commissioner Delaney.
Yes, a couple of things. What Commissioner Willis said regarding the 9th employee, I think it's important for us to really take a look at the budget and realize that we're paying an independent consultant, and with almost the same funds, we could get a full-time employee that could take up the slack, not only on the projects, but on other things as well. So I think that's something to really think about. And the other thing is, I like the idea of a 9th commissioner coming from the unincorporated areas. Thank you.
Different issues. Okay, very good. Well, I will just say I'm in agreement on the staff position too, because like you said, it's taking from one side and putting it on another that I'm hearing from staff that that's more important. So I feel that that's something that we can accomplish. Anything else on the order of items or work plan? It sounds, oh, please, Commissioner
I
McKenzie?
have a comment that I've talked to Keen about is regarding 6 and 7, where they have the Vista Irrigation District as part of the San Marcos region and not within the Vista region, whereas we serve all of the city of Vista, the unincorporated area, some Vallecita's parcels, and the unincorporated area. So I think there was maybe a misunderstanding of how much of VID is actually within the Vallecita's water district. So you may just want to be able to put that in there if that is the will of the.
Yeah, and so Commissioner McKenzie brought this as mentioned to my attention. So yeah, for whatever reason in my mind, I kind of assumed Vista Irrigation District largely was serving San Marcos. Part of it because Commissioner McKenzie is the representative for Vista ID and lives in San Marcos. So my mind got a bit sideways on that, but that's certainly a change we can make in the formal final work plan and then bring a corresponding change to your study schedule. So Commissioner McKenzie, thank you for bringing that up.
You can scratch that part of the video that I said that.
Okay,
My
very
DM's
good.
not going to be too happy.
Okay, so it sounds like the work plan is as suitable for everybody. Let's go ahead and go back and Mr. Simons, can you please respond to Commissioner Vice Chair Willis's comment?
Absolutely. So first and foremost, to the speakers from Lower Sweetwater and to Commissioner Willis, I get it and I agree that by and large, staff would want to avoid bringing you an increase overall that is beyond inflation. And we're doing that today for reasons, though, I think we've substantiated. In the case of the special districts, I do want to just remind, in particular for the record, that if you consider what we asked the special districts to pay in fiscal year 25, and you compare that to what we're asking the special districts to pay today, while the overall number is going up by that 18%, the Port of San Diego has now assumed 26% of all special districts payments to LAFCO. And that's why if you look at the spreadsheet, and it's the very last column to the right, where we compare what the proposed budget in 27's apportionment would be.
Can you put that on the screen by any chance or no? That's too hard.
Is there a way? Not easily.
Okay.
Not easily.
Okay.
But it gives me more time to talk.
Okay.
So there's a win.
Good.
So if you compare what we're asking each agency, special district to pay in 26, and you compare it to what they paid in 25, with, again, the exception of the Port of San Diego and Jacumba, everyone is seeing a sizable decrease in their apportionment. So, for example, Lower Sweetwater Fire Protection District was apportioned $275 in fiscal year 25. Their amount in 27, should you approve this without any changes and not use reserves, goes down to 244. So by way of the commission's leadership on the Port of San Diego item and the credit that you provided last year, all special districts are seeing a substantial percentage decrease in what you are asking them to pay. And again, the examples are consistent throughout. I bring that up just because this is part, Commissioner Willis, of a 2-year process to bring the port in and help the other special districts who have been funding LAFCO from the get-go see some rate relief.
Yes, Commissioner McKenzie.
Okay, and let me think here. So yes, all of these are lesser than what they were back in 2025, before we did have the port on board. And as much as I hate paying my percentage and my proration, it is what it is. Otherwise, we're looking at eliminating, consultants. Some of us have had that discussion that, do we need how many consultants sitting here getting paid to, to observe the meeting? Do we need another staff person? I think these are decisions to be made internally and then bring that back as to why. Why do we need another consultant? What is their job description? What does their contract look like? Or do we need, another staff person? So, I see the need to stick with this apportionment. It's been done for umpteen years. And the only way you can change it, if I remember rightly, the legislation, you would have to get all 59 members to agree to a different formula. And that's what the cities did. They don't have the same formula that the state required in that legislation. But the special districts looked in that time, it was close to 65, 70. And it was like, well, we aren't going to get 70 people to agree. So we stuck with what the legislation said. Now, if we want to go back and redo this, then I assume maybe it can still be done.
Commissioner Delaney, did you have another comment?
I was just comparing costs here. So back in 2024 was 232, then it went up to 275. And like Mr. Keene said, it goes back down 244, which is, I think, unfortunately, I think that's something that we might just have to really consider, especially over the long term. I think we need to look at this on the long-term basis. But I do have a question. Any ideas of what it would be in 27 then? Would it go back down then since we have the port? Would it remain the same? Do we have any long-range ideas on that?
So we would anticipate, and thank you for the question, Commissioner Delaney. So the key true up here that we're again proposing as a cold turkey remedy is that you just completely shut off the reserve spigot and not budget any. At that point, we would fully anticipate each year, starting in fiscal year 28, coming to you with simply a inflation-based adjustment to the changes, inflation based on whatever authorized cost of living adjustments the commission, not staff, but certainly the commission makes, or any other inflationary change that may come up. This is, using the sticker shock comment from Commissioner Willis, admittedly is the result of, trying to do a true up all at once. The commission may choose to say, hey, let's work on this over a period of time, but we are getting to the point where, as I showed up on the screen a little bit, your money's available for stabilization and opportunity is getting to the point where it merited your attention today. And certainly you have options, but our recommendation is the cold turkey approach.
I would have to say I'm not voting, but I would agree with that. And I'm also of the opinion that our reserves are something that are very important that we need to keep. Just my opinion.
Thank you. Commissioner McKenzie?
Yes, just clarification again, one more time, Kane. The amount that special districts pay is predicated on their revenue.
Yes.
So those who only get a tax increment, that's their only source of revenue, will go up as their properties become more valuable.
Yes, based on, though, in combination of what the other 58, 59 districts revenue numbers are going down. So, for example, if for whatever reason every special district reports a revenue loss next year, but Sweetwater Fire Authority reports a revenue gain, they're going to see a change. It still will be within the bounds, but in terms of looking at the percentage differences.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Yes.
Just a Quick question. I hadn't noticed this before looking at the proposed draft work plan. In the current work plan, we had a white paper on homelessness services. Is it not on here because we're nearing completion on that, or?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right. At this time, do we have any motions? Does anyone feel comfortable? I do feel comfortable with staff recommendation. I don't like the word cold turkey, but when you think about just doing it gradually, I really don't think, apportioning $100,000 is really going to make a difference. So for me, I'm comfortable with, kind of taking off that whole reserves. Anybody? Commissioner McKenzie?
Yes, I'll make a motion to approve the proposed draft work plan.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Very good. Madam Clerk, can we call for the vote?
Commissioner Becker,
Yes.
Commissioner Willis,
No.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson,
Aye.
Commissioner Browning,
Yes.
Commissioner White,
Yes.
Commissioner Whitburn.
Yes.
There are 6 in favor, 1 opposed, with 1 absent. The motion passes.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys coming in and appreciate the long presentation. Let's go to our business item.
So I believe motion specific to the work plan, so we need another one for the budget.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
That was my motion, just for the work plan at this point in
Okay.
time, since there's discussion.
Okay. I'm sorry, I did not hear that.
I'll make
Okay.
another motion that we approve the budget for 2026 as presented by staff.
Good. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Right, Madam Clerk, call the vote.
Commissioner Becker,
Yes.
Commissioner Willis,
No.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson,
Aye.
Commissioner Browning, Commissioner White,
Yes.
Commissioner Whitburn.
Yes.
6 in favor, 1 opposed, with 1 absent. The motion passes.
Thank you. All right, let's turn to our business item 7A. It's a quarterly update on the 2025-2026 work plan, and this is discussion only.
Thank you. So I'm going to ask Priscilla Mumpower to lead us off, and I think we're actually going to hear from Michaela as well.
Yes, good morning, Commissioners. Priscilla Mumpower, Assistant Executive Officer. This item you normally see in your consent calendar as a work plan progress report on how staff is doing in advancing your work plan and providing status updates. This one you're receiving as an update on your business calendar, and it should be coming forward to you quarterly in this way. Otherwise, will be on your consent calendar. So this agenda report in front of you does focus in on the 10 high priority projects with status updates within each of those. And I'm happy to answer questions or discuss any of those items as it is an opportunity for you all to discuss it as part of your business calendar. But otherwise, I am going to have Michaela Peters, analyst, to provide a brief update on the SALC project, which has been the one project that has advanced considerably since your last update and since the last meeting. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Michaela.
Thank you, Priscilla, and good morning, Commissioners. Analyst Michaela Peters, Analyst 2 for the record. So as Priscilla mentioned, I have a brief update on the Sustainable Agricultural Lands Conservation Grant, which is a planning grant that we're calling SALC 2.0. This is a grant that is led by LAFCO in partnership with the County of San Diego Planning and Development Services. So SALC 2.0 builds on our initial SALC grant, wherein we partnered with the Resource Conservation District of Greater San Diego to better understand the lay of the land in terms of local agriculture and developed 10 key policy recommendations to carry forward. So SALC 2.0 advances one of those recommendations with a focus on strengthening the long-term viability of small-scale agriculture in the region. So since our last update in February 2025, we've completed 3 of the 4 main tasks, including the market analysis, the gap analysis, and the strategic action plan. So the market analysis and gap analysis identified key cost pressures and the profitability gap in four crops, including strawberries, lemons, tomatoes, and avocados. And in response, the strategic action plan provides a flexible, non-regulatory toolkit of incentives, technical assistance, regulatory streamlining, and partnership strategies. So it is organized around four long-term goals, which we're calling seeds that are shown up on the screen. And those include improving infrastructure, increasing local demand, strengthening supportive policy, and fostering regional alignment. So 2 recommended tools are directed to LAFCO, as shown on the screen. And the first involves expanding agricultural economic analysis in municipal service reviews when appropriate. And then second is to prepare an annual progress report on implementation of the strategic action plan to update stakeholders. So we've entered into the final phase of the project, which is to prepare a comprehensive final report. This will synthesize key findings and outline implementation priorities. And the final report is expected to be completed shortly with a presentation to you, the commission, as well as a submission or the submission of a memorandum to the County Board of Supervisors, which is anticipated in late May or early June. And this marks the conclusion of the grant. So while the strategic action plan has been completed, we continue to welcome your feedback as we complete the final phase of SALC 2.0. So that concludes my update. I'm available for questions. And then quickly, I just wanted to thank Stephanie Neal. She's been a key partner from the County Planning and Development Services. So just want to thank her for coming today.
Thank you. Thank you for that update. It looks like we don't have any public comment on this item. So this is for 7C.
Oh,
S-
sorry. Glasses are on.
Commissioners, do you have any comments or questions? This, as I understand it, this item, you could also have questions on any other updates that you are curious about. Is that correct? Is this with the appropriate time? I think we want to kind of incorporate that, like what's going on with the healthcare, MSR, anything you guys want to ask that. Yes, Commissioner Drake.
Thank you, Chair. I just wondered on item 1B, which concerns healthcare. Obviously, that it's a very dynamic situation, and UCSD has formed a new relationship with Palomar, which is very mysterious. And I just wondered what your thoughts were on how that will affect the MSR.
Yes, timely question, Commissioner Drake. We are aware of this new partnership. We're still trying to make sense of it, which is part of the write-up. And we are making sense of all the other things that are moving in healthcare. So working closely with Adam Wilson, who has been helping us in trying to understand these new partnerships, as well as council.
Oh, go ahead.
Commissioner McKenzie.
On the same note, Priscilla, is there a discussion or trying to figure out the difference between, and I think there are joint powers versus, and I don't know what Tri-City is, but Tri-City in the news, they say they have to go to a vote in order for, what is it, UCSD?
Yes, so Adam has been working on trying to understand the nuances between the two. We do understand, we've also been taking a look at, well, what is the difference between the partnership that Grossmont has, as well as what Tri-City is pursuing. And so we're kind of looking at these 3 different partnerships that are in the county and between these healthcare districts. And so I don't have concrete answers for you today on what those differences are, but they are on our mind as we do the write-up of the MSR and try to come up with some key observations and conclusions as part of it.
Okay.
Good. All right. Oh, you had it.
Yeah, I just had a comment, just a quick question. Priscilla, we still have a grant that could call SALT 3 or 2.5 coming up. Have we applied for that?
So we did apply for a 3rd grant, and unfortunately, we're not a recipient.
Oh, okay.
And so, but I
Dash my head.
say that one more
Hopes to death. Thank you.
Yes.
I just have one more question. Can someone explain what the white paper on homeless services is and what it purports to accomplish?
I can jump in on that.
Cool.
Sorry. So Commissioner McKenzie, the question is the white paper on homeless services, which we are, I think, getting close to presenting in draft form, hence why it's not right now listed in the fiscal year 27 work plan, is to do two things. One is for LAFCO to put its independent lens in and understand how homeless services and services are funded and organized throughout San Diego County, and then putting our legislative lens on, are there any alternative organizational structures, including perhaps a special district formula that might enhance the baseline service and governance of homeless services in San Diego. So it's a white paper in that it is somewhat academic, more so than an MSR, but it's intended to advance a discussion. And I used an example in speaking with this with Commissioner Whitburn, who has certainly been an assistance to staff in understanding the baseline. Many years ago in Napa County, when I was working there was this common need to deal with farm worker housing and the transient flows of that particular need. And in that situation, Napa County, LAFCO, created a special district for the purposes, through special legislation, for the purposes of assessing vineyards, an X amount that would go into the funding and operation of farm worker housing with a governance structure and a more accountable form of how to deal with this municipal service. All to say, this white paper is intended to at least start that conversation. Maybe we conclude that what's offered today is the best that's going to get, at least relative to our minds. Maybe not. So that's the intent of the white paper. And like the other white papers we present to the commission, maybe it has legs and it turns into something else.
Does this also then include the NPOs, the nonprofits?
The ones that are operating the homeless services?
Yeah. You got
Oh, yeah, they're
Father
part of
you've
it.
got one up in a big one there in Escondido. And then you have all of the others, the churches and so forth that, work for the homeless. And
So we've already exceeded my knowledge of the details at this point. So Megan, would you be kind enough to?
we just want to know how broad this is, because it's just not the city of San
No,
Marcos.
yes. So,
Yeah, a discussion of nonprofits is included, though this is more of a governance study, so it's more related to the public agencies that are involved with this and, federal guidelines on administering homelessness services as well as local and state. So there will be a discussion of nonprofits, but ultimately it's focused on public agencies in the public sector.
Thank you for that clarification.
Thank you.
Good. All right, let's go ahead and move on to item 7B. That was just a discussion item. This is the development of weighted water rate comparisons, another discussion item.
So I'm going to ask Joelle to start us off, and I'm going to also ask, I'm going to put Aiden on the spot. Is there a way to turn the air on? It's getting a little hot in here.
Someone's
Yeah.
talking.
And it's not the subject matter.
No.
So good morning. As we get that situated, Joelle Barilla, Analyst 1 for the record. Today's item provides an update on the development of water rate comparators with a presentation by LAFCO consultant Tom Kennedy of Kennedy Water Consulting on the draft weighted water rate comparisons report. And this was prepared on behalf of LAFCO's Special Districts Advisory Committee with support from staff. This draft report is intended to serve as a diagnostic tool for future municipal service reviews by providing quantifiable context for why water rates vary among agencies across the county and to identify where rates may warrant further attention in relation to present and future affordability. It offers a high-level assessment of structural and operational factors influencing rates, including service density, topography, development patterns, and reliance on different water sources, many of which fall outside of an agency's direct control. So the draft analysis also highlights emerging considerations related to long-term funding and service reliability, including the role of capital planning and asset management in shaping future water rate stability. So staff, in partnership with LAFCO Special Districts Advisory Committee, has applied best practices in developing this comparative framework, including establishing a working group last year to ensure the report is both meaningful and accessible to the commission and to the public. So a draft report of this was presented to our committee this past January, and staff is currently incorporating their feedback. We are also seeking out the commission's input ahead of finalizing this report by the close of this fiscal year. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Kennedy to walk through key components of the report, including outlining next steps and also additional analysis to incorporate equity considerations and assess rate impacts under varying economic conditions.
Thank you, Joel. Morning, Commission. I'm happy to present this to you all. There was a great working group we set up through the SDAC, which was led by Chair Thorner, but also members Beebe, Lau, and Bushy from the wastewater district, Leucadia wastewater, Paul there. So the goal was when it was I was first asked to start working on this, it was like, we've seen a lot of talk here at the commission about water rates. I hear about it. I get calls from Barry every now and then. What do we do about water rates? People ask me this. And it's difficult because water rates are talked about in different ways all over the place and have different sources. And so the goal was to try to produce information that could help the commission and the public understand why water rates are different. If you're in this water district, it's different than in that water district. We early on established a number of constraints. We're not going to come up and say that this water rate is good, that water rate is bad. And we don't want to let the commission think that they could do so as well, because it's a lot more nuanced than that. But as to make this study work, we work with publicly available data that we weren't going to have to go and dig through the books of every agency, stuff that was published on their websites, their annual financial reports. Then we also didn't want to get too wonky. There are a lot of really detailed metrics we could have done, getting into, how many pressure zones or what have they got it as far as the complexity of their system and things like that. We want to do things that are simple to understand for both the public and the commission. But with a couple of key caveats here, the data we used wasn't prepared for the use we used it for. So this is data, the things that we're using, derivative work that will contain some error bars because we weren't using perfect data. The metrics are also not exact. One of the things that I did, one of the harder things I did mathematically was to try to normalize all the data, which come from lots of different sources, into a common scaling system, and not to put any numerical values. It's not your 6.75 and your 6.76. It's just a relative comparator system that is there to help get a sense of what are the potential underlying causes of a given water rate. And so, we got to work. We started this in the spring of 2025 and worked on it all year. And so, like I said before, are there good or bad water rates? And the answer is no. There is no water rate that's inherently good or inherently bad. Certain different parties have different perspectives on this. Rate structures that have fixed revenues that are closer to the fixed cost are better. We see challenges in places like our wholesale water cost, where most of the revenue is on the variable side, but their fixed costs dominate the scene. That's a troubling problem that ends up with a second grade math problems of numerators and denominators and makes your number get real big fast. Water rates are extremely agency specific. No two agencies are identical and they all have different cost drivers. So to make a comparison of one agency to another just based on, hey, average customer pays $38 a month, but they're $40 a month, so they're obviously either inefficient or bad at what they do. Not true. Water rate setting is also extremely tightly controlled. Cost of service principles are mandated in the California Constitution, and there's a large cottage industry of law firms who monitor this closely. If you were to ask every water agency around the county how many Prop 218 suits they've been in, you'd find very few that said 0. So those are kind of the things when we look at water rates. So how can we look at water rates? Working with the team, we spitballed a whole bunch of different metrics we might be able to use, but we narrowed down to 6 to take a look at that we felt the data was available, easily understandable by everyone, and that we could produce a result here. So the first would be system density. Across the county, you have a lot of different densities. In the city of San Diego and in places like Sweetwater Authority, it's almost 100 customers per mile of pipe. On the far end, on the other side, you go out to Uema, they've got like 8 customers per mile of pipe. And if you think of it this way, if you had to build or replace a mile of pipe, how many people get to share that cost? Well, if you have very low system density, each customer holds a pro rata share that's larger of the overall cost of maintenance, and it's just more expensive. If you're way out in the hills at Rainbow and we're pumping 3 times to get the water to you, that water is going to be more expensive than if you're in a high-rise downtown. Topography, as I mentioned, makes a big difference. The system topography increases pumping, increases the complexity of the system, pressure control, the number of storage reservoirs you might have. And this was data that we could have access to. So if you had a relatively flat system, I ran a system in the 90s up near downtown LA that had a 12-foot elevation difference between the top to the bottom of the city. And it was very flat, 1 pressure zone. I ran Rainbow, 35 pressure zones, Leeuwenhoek, 32 pressure zones. But then there's others like San Diego that have 2 or 3. And so there's very great differences there. Local water treatment. Especially in about 25 years ago, people started building local water treatment for a variety of reasons. And on average, for the vast majority, the local water treatment plants produce treated water at a lower rate than buying water treatment services from the Water Authority or Met. And so they get a marginal decrease in their overall cost structure for having their own plant. Development activity. This one was an interesting topic. The initial metrics that we were using that we kind of made a non-quantitative assessment of who was having higher development activity and who lower. We revised that after the first draft of this was shown to the commission, the committee in October, and the revised calculation. I'll show another slide here in a second on that. But when you have a lot of development activity, each agency is receiving a lot of capacity fees. Everybody with the city knows that there's a lot of money that comes in when development occurs. Water agencies are no different. If you have a lot of capacity fee revenue coming in, that helps not have to charge the rates because that capacity fee money is put toward capital projects and things like that. If you didn't have that capacity fee money, you're going to have to take, if you got to replace a pipeline or build something, that's coming out of ratepayers' pockets. And then we get into the supply side of it. We have high cost local supplies. So if you look at, well, I guess the jury's out on the calculation on San Diego Pure Water, whether it's going to cost more or less than Water Authority water. I know the Water Authority thinks it's going to be more, but the city thinks it's going to be less. But I won't get into that one. But if you look at the advanced purification projects that are going on in different places, generally they have a higher marginal cost. And then City of Carlsbad is in the contract, and Vallecito's Water District buys desal water as direct purchasers from the Water Authority. Super reliable, super expensive. And then there's other people who have low-cost water supplies. If you have local supplies like the city of San Diego, the Sweetwater Authority benefits greatly from local supplies. You look at Lakeside Water District has their own groundwater wells and things like that. Those help drive the cost down. And so we chose those 6 metrics as just the initial ones to look at here that were simple and was data available. And then the question was, how do we portray these? And so the decision was to take the initial data from the North County MSR project that was underway because we had more complete data for them and just kind of show this out as a draft rather than going through and doing every agency and doing all the work on that, just so people could say, hey, we like this approach or we don't like this approach or fix that. So we just wanted to put out a snapshot on them. So here we're going to have some charts for Leeuwenhoek, Carlsbad, and San Diego Water District. These charts, as I mentioned, don't affix specific numbers, but they are kind of what I call a slider bar chart. It shows that you're going to have something that's going to tend to be one more this way and some a little that way. And so if we look here for Leeuwenhoek, If your tick mark is on the left side, it tends to raise your rates, whatever that feature is. And if it's on the right side in the green, it tends to lower your rates. And so from local treatment, they've got their own treatment plant. Their topography they're a little more hilly than most. They don't really have a high cost local supply, so they're right in the middle there. Development activity has slowed down. If you were here 15 years ago, for those of us who worked in the Encinitas and Carlsbad area, that number would have been way higher, but it's slowed way down recently. Their system density is right about average, and they do not have a low-cost local supply, so that tends to push their rates higher than those who would. Carlsbad, somewhat flatter topography-wise. They've got a much flatter surface area, but they don't have local treatment. But interestingly, they have a high and a low cost. They have a high cost local supply, but they don't have a low cost local supply. So they ended up on the negative side on that in both. There's no score for Carlsbad here on development activity because they didn't publish the specific data point I needed for the analysis in their ACFRs. And then San Diego, you can see a lot of the tick marks are in the low cost supply. Development activity is very low. And so they've got a challenge there. And so, they benefit from having both local supply and treatment. Lake Hodges supply for San Diego is longstanding, although that might get much more expensive soon if they have to pay to replace the dam. So with regard to the development activity, we came up with another metric that looked at your capacity fees as a percentage of your operating revenues. And so we took a 5-year average from ACFRs of systems that have what they brought in capacity fees every year from development activity and what they didn't. And you see there's some outliers here. Vallecillos, it's almost 12% of their operating revenue they collect every year. Now, San Marcos is booming right now. The general manager told me that the way their capacity fees are calculated, it's not just a buy-in rate, it's also a growth rate. So they have to build infrastructure for that. And so he says a lot of that money is going right back out the door, but it's millions and millions and millions of dollars a year coming in. You go down to UEMA, where they've got 0.1% coming in from 1Z, 2Z meter sets. That's a big difference. And so you will see agencies go through periods of development where there's a lot of cash coming into the agency while that gravy train is running. But that gravy train ends. Like I said, Olivenheim 15 years ago would have been top of the list as Carlsbad and Lacoste were growing out, but now they're down toward the middle. So, these numbers will change over time. So what is the optimal water rate? Ask a ratepayer, 0, as cheap as possible. That's great. It's good for the short term. It's good for them, but probably not good for the long term. If you look at agencies, they look at, as the discussion just happened here, we got to take a look at our reserve policies. We got to look at our debt. We got to look at these things, and we have to make the financially prudent decision. But I think for LAFCOs, it's a little more nuanced. When you look at these as in the lens of a municipal service review, LAFCO is here to make sure that the agencies who are charged by LAFCO to provide the various services throughout the county, wherever they are they doing it well now? And are they well positioned to do it in the future? And I think that second part is where capital spending and water rates intersect. So as we all know, the provision of water and wastewater is a highly capital dependent operation. The pipelines, the tanks, everything that takes to get that water to your door and the wastewater safely conveyed away from your door. All those pipelines have fixed lifespans. They're going to need rehabilitation or replacement at some point. And agencies are continuously needing to reinvest in their capital assets to maintain service levels. And if you're doing appropriate capital spending, your water rates go up. I think if you look at all the agencies in San Diego County, the one that probably stands out as having the most robust asset management and capital improvement program is the San Diego County Water Authority. They have a tremendous program. It's also very expensive, and it impacts rates. And so that's just, those two go hand in hand. So how can we assess if somebody's spending appropriately or inappropriately? Very difficult. Again, we looked at 2 imperfect metrics. We look at capital spending as a percentage of your operating expenses every year. So how much are you spending here versus your normal operating expenses? And then capital spending as a percentage of your depreciation expense, how much your assets are depreciating financially, right? And that's a measure of your financial depreciation. Both of these have flaws. they can't account for large projects that come up, like a big treatment plant, and you'll see bumps on that. And they can't, we didn't go into the detail of the capital spending. We just used ACFR data to see whether that was on a water or wastewater infrastructure or was a new headquarters or whatever else you were doing with it that weren't really related to moving water. So when we look at 5 years worth of ACFRs for all 22 agencies, that was a ton of fun. Except for it was 2029 to 2023, so some of this data is a couple years old now. Sweetwater only had two years on their website, but we didn't go out and get specific data from them. Did the calculations, the 5-year averages, and then produced some charts. So yeah, I guess a magnifying glass would be good. I think so. So what you can see here is that there are, sorry, it looks better when you just read the report. There are some things that stand out. You see City of San Diego, City of Oceanside, and Fallbrook here as a percentage of their operating expenses, way high, big. But during that 2019 to 23 period, I know Fallbrook was building out their advanced water treatment plant. I know Oceanside was finishing up their plant, San Luis Rey, and I know the City of San Diego has been hard at work on pure water. You'll see all the way at the far end, San Diego Water District, not spending much anything over there. And everybody else around in the middle, you see the middle lines are around 15% of your operating expenses is where people tend to be. When we look at it as a percentage of depreciation, now they flipped around a little bit. Escondido jumps up toward the top. Oceanside's still up there. But we also see Helix and San Diego Water way on the bottom. And again, so here you see people spending, in the middle of 1 to 1.5 of their depreciation, a ratio of their depreciation. And there some get up to 3 or 4. Others these numbers will move around year to year. But you can see who's been having more activity in capital projects in those two different metrics. So what do they mean? Well, they're just a comparison to other agencies. They're not a direct number. But if you're spending less than 15% of your operating expenses on capital projects every year, you're probably spending too little. Maybe not. If you have a brand new system, and like there aren't very many of those here in San Diego County, but if you're a brand new system, maybe you don't need to. If your CIP to depreciation is less than 1.0, you're probably spending too little, that you're not spending at least as much as you're collecting for depreciation, then maybe you should be spending more. As I mentioned, San Diego stood out here. They've acknowledged that since 2023, the city council has made some substantive changes to their water master planning process, and that's improving, and that'll be reflected in their MSR. So the real takeaway here is that from an asset management perspective, most agencies are spending too little. They have rates that are too low, not too high. As I know Commissioner Whitburn has watched at the Water Authority, even that budget, when push comes to shove, quite often the first thing that gets cut is some capital program. There's a capital project. We said, we can do that next year. We'll do that in 2 years. We'll do that in 5 years because we just can't raise the rates right now. That sort of budget triage occurs in every boardroom around this county. And a lot of agencies are stressed by the large increase in wholesale water rates that we all see. And when the board looks at the budget and they say, geez, we had planned for those rates to go up 8%, but they're going up 15%. What are we going to do? They cut their asset management programs. They cut spending. And then in the short term, that might work, but it's not going to work in a long time. But from LAFCO's perspective, my recommendation is that when they're doing MSRs, they just see that the agency has comprehensive asset management programs in place. Ones that have a detailed asset registry that continuously assess condition of assets and then do their capital spending informed by that so they can spend the money more effectively. If you have an agency that doesn't even have a master plan or has a master plan that's really old and isn't really looking at the data really carefully, you're going to find people who aren't spending appropriately. If agencies wait until it's too late to get these programs in place, as Gary Rant liked to say, you can replace water mains 3 feet at a time when they leak or 3 miles at a time, and the latter is preferred. So the written draft report provides 2 general recommendations. There could be more if people want to explore other items. One is to talk about agencies should actively developing or currently using asset management tools that are proactively assessing the condition of assets on a continuous basis. And then if possible, and I know there's been discussion about this at the Water Authority in some measure, from a local water agency's perspective and from a local retail agency perspective, the overwhelming burden of wholesale water costs dominates a lot of the budgets. One we've seen it in the newspaper related to the city of San Diego, but this happens everywhere. There was a couple of members on our SDSC who were saying it's 65% of their budget, of all their costs come from that. And they have very little work with otherwise. It'd be great to find a mechanism, the legislature, to work with the legislature to find a mechanism to allow these wholesalers to do like a lot of wastewater districts do, collect their fees, not a tax, a fee through the assessment process, through the property tax roll. And so if water agencies had 65% of their cost structure start getting picked up by the landowners, then that would allow them to lower rates and reinvest in their communities more appropriately. I also think it'll make more accountability if more than 2 people from the public came to the Water Authority. I think you've had more speakers here at this commission meeting today than most Water Authority meetings ever have. And so I think it helpful gain some accountability there. Both Metropolitan and the Water Authority have a huge distance between what they dream up in their boardrooms and what we all have to push through in our boardrooms to actually effectuate that collection of money that gets collected by the billions and sent down the line. So those are just some ideas on how to look at it. And I think I'm open to any questions. I don't know if I hit my time mark there or not, but I did my best.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. You have an amazing ability to make this understandable and somewhat interesting.
That was the goal. Somewhat interesting. Well,
Exactly.
Success.
Thank you. Okay, I see we have, is there a public comment? There's someone else online, but maybe no hand raised.
Looks like there is a hand raised.
Okay, very good. Let's go ahead and take that public comment.
Thanks, Ryan.
Nick. Hi, Nick.
Caller
Hi, can you
ending
hear
in
me?
813. Yes, we could hear you.
Okay, hi, my name is Consuelo, and yeah, I'm just chiming in to listen to what you guys are all doing here. I'm not exactly sure what's being determined with this item, but yeah, if it's having to do with any kind of government agency, I know it's about money. And so water rates keep going up, and yet water itself is abundant. So what's expensive is not the water, it's the system we choose to build around it, correct? So let's talk about the treatment. Most municipal plants use chlorine and chloramine and all kinds of toxic stuff to disinfect it, but they also use aluminum sulfate and ferric chloride to coagulate particles, and also caustic chemicals to adjust the pH. And, you know, it's just, while some of these chemicals serve a purpose, they also create disinfection byproducts that leave residue compounds in our water. Many residents don't want that. And, but there are alternatives, and I guess that's why I want to chime in. I'm sure you guys already know this because, I mean, you're in your positions of authority where you can determine things, and I would hope you did know this, that there are large-scale distillation technologies already out there. And let's see, multi-effect distillation is used in distillation plants worldwide. It evaporates and condenses water without chemical additives. UV disinfection systems kills pathogens without adding anything to the water. Ozonation process destroys contaminants and leaves a minimal residue. So I guess my question is simple. If there are cleaner technologies that exist, and I'm sure they're probably significantly less because of the fact that you don't have to use all the junk. If chemical-free or low chemical processes are available, why are we locked into systems that rely so heavily on chemical treatments? And I don't know, you're concerned about public health. I mean, Because a lot of those things, they contribute to illnesses. Your skin, take showers, it's the biggest organ. We absorb all that junk unless you have a home filtration system, which everybody cannot afford. Anyway, so back to what I was wanting to say. So if we're using water rates, then residents deserve full transparency, and not just on costs, but on why certain technologies are chosen over others. Perhaps conflicts of interest,
Thank you.
perhaps there's.
Oh, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, good. Commissioner Drake.
Tom, I just want to thank you for a very adult level discussion. We don't often see as much candor and frankly insight into the complexity of the water rates, and I appreciate what you've done. It raises more questions than answers, though, in some ways. For example, just in policy issues that the boards have to have across the county, things like, what do you expect your longevity of pipes to be? Is it 75 years, 50 years, 100 years? Those things become knobs that adjust the whole process, and not everybody agrees. And I'd be interested to see if there could be some agreement in the county about basic decisions like things like lifespan or percentage of reserves or things that are kind of independent of the things you've identified that could give us some guidance. The other thing that is kind of sitting out there is we don't know what's going to happen from the federal government on the Colorado River. And so therefore, knowing what we know from your rate model, what should we be doing? So how do we move from the nouns to the verbs of how we react to what's going to happen to us? Because it's the states can't agree, the federal government may not agree, and 9 Supreme Court justices may decide what happens on the Colorado River. So I just wondered how your process could give us some insight.
Well, I think that if you were to try to say that this type of pipeline will last 50 years or 75 years countywide, might not hit the mark. That's why I think it's very local. We did the study back when I started at Rainbow 10 plus years ago. We didn't have a good master plan program. We started a condition-based thing. We started collecting a lot of data to look at where failures were occurring. And the same age pipe performs very differently under different conditions, soil conditions, pressure conditions. And so it's hard to say in your system what a given asset type will last like. And so I think that's why it's important for every agency to collect very specific detailed data down to the stick of pipe level on performance of those assets, so then they can build the data necessary to make an informed decision and maybe build a larger data set that then they could have commonalities. But soil type, like if you're going through a high pressure line through the valley floor where the ground's a bit wetter than it is on the side of the hill, you tend to get more corrosion down there, right? It makes sense, but those are things that it's not just the age of the pipe. So with regard to the Colorado River, long discussion. I gave an hour-long talk on this last week at an engineering group, and I don't want to waste the commission's time. Let's just say I think the Supremes are going to get involved.
Okay, I'm going to ask Mr. Simons to relate this to how LAFCO might be able to use this important work.
Well, thank you, Chair Becker, and thank you, Tom. So as Joelle mentioned up front, Tom has been helping us respond to a desire from all of your special district committee members who want more involvement in LAFCO, in particular want to have more input in the performance metrics that your staff ultimately presents to you when we do a service review. So Tom has been helping us respond to the special districts in wanting to provide a tool that we can use in these documents going forward. So Tom, could you go back to the slide where you show the operating to depreciation ratio and the recommendation? I think you go forward one more. It's the written bullet points.
Oh, okay. Hang on. Hold on. Let's see here.
Yeah, and where you had ideally a 1-to-1 ratio.
Oh, okay. All right. I went too far.
There we go. So, Commission, unless you have thoughts otherwise, and assuming that this becomes part of the final report that Tom presents to us and presents to the committee, these are going to be metrics that we're going to start using in the service review. And keep in mind that, as Tom mentioned, we understand that the ideal rate is as low as possible. However, by way of your statutory prompts, you are to consider future community needs. And part of this quantifiable tool is for us to offer up an independent thought to Agency X to speak to about how rates are going to be applied to future residents who are currently not in the room and can speak for themselves. The other part of this ongoing analysis, and Joelle did mention this, and I think it's in your report, there's a fairness question about rates. And why does that matter to LAFCO? Well, obviously, you're here to ensure to the best of your ability that municipal services are delivered efficiently and effectively. Clearly, affordability is part of that equation. It doesn't make much pragmatic sense for us to sign off on a municipal service review if we can attest, yes, they have the availability, they have the capacity, but what happens when rates become perhaps unaffordable to the constituent base that they are serving? That's a dynamic conversation, but what Tom and his work is hopefully going to help us do is at least develop some disclosures that look at, and I don't want to use the word equity, but perhaps a fairness tool to consider the rates that are being applied today and the affordability metric to the community they serve. I think that, to the speaker's comment earlier, Consuelo, that is a role for LAFCO to play in providing some independent information that speaks to things that are broader than our mandate here, but go to it. So, Tom.
If I could
Yes.
clarify one thing, I would say that there are some numbers putting up here. The word probably needs to be emphasized here, because I don't want to say that if it's less than 15% or more than, if you're more than 15%, you're good. Well, you might have had some unusual capital purchase of a whole bunch of new trucks or some dang thing. It had nothing to do with the pipelines. But I think that when LAFCO is going to look at an MSR and they look at aggregated data from an agency over time, and they see consistently lower CIP spending that seems reasonable, then they should dig a little deeper and figure out what's going on. It's not a threshold value that says you're good here and you're bad there. And so I think that it's really just to engage the dialogue a little further. With regard to non-equity, but we're not saying equity issues, the standards that are used by the International Water Authority Association and AWA run around 2% of median household income being a threshold of affordability. There are also other studies that look at both the median and then maybe the 20th percentile income and see if there's a big difference between the 20th percentile percentage of 20th percentile of income in your community versus the median. And if there's a big gap between those, some people would say those rates are disadvantaging the people on the lower economic scale. But the main reason for that would be is because the fixed monthly charge dominates at those lower ends, but the fixed monthly charge is favored by the CPAs and the finance people for rate stability. So those are, competing things there.
All right, Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. By the way, outstanding work. You brought back fond memories of Padre Dam, because that's where I started.
Yeah. Yes.
In the case of Padre Dam, it started off as a small water district and it kept annexing. So we have an elevation problem with Alpine compared to Santee. They charge different rates. Our pumping fees are tied to our tax base. That's included. Then later we annexed Crest. Crest had its own set of problems. During the Cedar Fire, we learned that we went from 5-inch pipes to 2-inch pipes to 5-inch pipes. Everything had to be redone, and half of the streets, in order to rebuild, had to put a fire hydrant in. And when you only have 3 houses on that street, now you have stale water, and now you have to inject chlorine. You have to do all these things and everyone's drinking pool water at that point. I think I want to caution my colleagues. Every one of these districts is unique. And while we're trying to standardize it and look through a standardization, you have to take in considerations the life of the pipe and what the pipe's going through and how it's being used. Right. Some of the bigger districts have sophisticated systems that they can invest in where a machine goes through the pipes and updates it in real time. Other smaller ones don't have that technology because it's very expensive. In the case of Padre, when I got there, I want to say that we had like 40 capital improvement projects, and we were fully built out. In contrast to OTI, which was booming, booming, and they had 6. So looking at the capital investment, without going into each capital investment, we had $2 million spent on building a new office, and we owned the land, so we didn't spend any money on that. We didn't have any permits, so we didn't spend any money on that. We had no physical plans, and we didn't spend any money on that. What we did spend it on was parties, overtime, all sorts of. So if we all went out to lunch and we stayed too long, I don't know this for a fact, but this is what I assume as a finance major, that we all said, hey, let's talk about that building for a second. Were you sure to mark it on the building? And so in a sense, they were cooking the books before I got there, because how do you spend almost $2 million over a 5-year period with nothing to show for it? So all these measurements alone aren't valuable tools. We have to put them in context, and that takes somebody, Tom, like yourself, who actually understands what they're looking at. I just happened to go, I was a new board member, so I went through the books from top to bottom. I looked at every capital improvement project. I asked for line item details, and I did an analysis on all of them because I want to be good at my job. And
you resolved all those issues, I'm sure, your time on the board.
Well, we did have a 30% rate hike when I went to the assembly and left that board, because I kept everybody in based, because, I'd advertise into my district what we were doing. And people get very angry when you start telling them. The other thing that I want to make sure that we all understand is, as a general rule, there are water districts like Helix and San Diego. They're pre-World War II. And that's why you're driving down 8. It says, oh, welcome to San Diego. Well, it's because they found water. And then a quarter mile later, you find that, not longer in the city of San Diego. And so they have pumps. They have water, compared to Padre, where we wheel 100% of it. So we're completely at the markets because we don't generate any water. That's why when you're looking at what Padre and Helix, and they're all doing out there with a pure water project, recycling the water, being more efficient with the water. Although that is today way more expensive, tomorrow will be cheap. And the last thing is, those pumping fees are incredibly expensive. So the further you are from your source, you are jammed. You are absolutely jammed. So when they did the Poseidon Adventure, as I like to call it, if every water district didn't participate in that, Carlsbad could never get the advantage of it, because the water was more than double what you could get from the Colorado. But we knew that we needed it, because the one thing that we don't want to go into is rationing water. And, there are plenty of reasons to hate the County Water Authority. But what they've done with the reservoirs and the tunneling is all $3 billion worth of investment that's paid dividends for us. So I just want to caution everybody going into this. We need to make sure we have all the facts. And actually, I would look forward to having you present, Tom, on another day.
I'd be happy to do so. And I think you're right. They are imperfect metrics, as I tried to start out right at the beginning and say,
Let's start somewhere.
It's imperfect, but it's a way where to start.
Commissioner Whitburn.
I do want to say thank you for the very informed report that you put together. I mean, you've been in the business for so long, you absolutely know what you're discussing. And I really appreciate your cautioning about, there being so many different factors that go into the performance metrics. And I just want to echo that. I think it is valuable to look at metrics and see what can be derived from them. In the case of San Diego, there was a flag, and in fact, the agency agreed that there's something to be further explored there. But as you know, and there are just so many variables that can go into a specific metric that I would caution LAFCO in its use of the metrics to not necessarily assume that a metric is identifying something good or bad, but to use it as a starting point to see what is really going on. You talk about just CIP. CIP, I mean, capital improvement projects could be used for very different purposes. On one hand, it could be state of good repair, ensuring that your pipes are, functioning and not leaking and are up to the standard. On the other hand, capital improvement projects could be used to increase the supply through, wastewater recycling or desal or what have you, which is an entirely different ballgame, and can itself, while increasing the supply, also be driving up rates, which is a trade-off that goes to the heart of so many of the conversations that are underway right now. So CIP in and of itself isn't necessarily good or bad. It depends on what it's being used for. And even there, water rates, I mean, nobody likes to increase water rates. But I mean, one of the reasons why is a very real consideration. I mean, we have people in San Diego County, particularly seniors on a fixed income whose, Social Security check doesn't keep up with inflation, who are $20 from falling into homelessness. And an increase in the water rate could be the tipping point. And so the water rate really does impact people. And so what may be good for the population or bad for the population may be a different calculation for the agency itself. And I think that that's really important distinction. And the last thing I'll end with is, some of the factors at play here are even out of the agency's own control. I mean, a lot of attention has been put on the city of San Diego's Pure Water program, which, in many respects, it's increasing the supply in an area where there's a plentiful supply, right? But when you dig a little deeper, you understand that Pure Water is the result of a settlement with the federal government because, the city of San Diego with the wastewater treatment plants and the outflow into the Pacific Ocean, needed to be corrected. And so you could either spend billions of dollars on that, or you could spend money recycling the water. All of which to say is there are so many factors that go into this. I would just again encourage that while it's important to look at the metrics and see what could be derived from them, not to assume at first blush that, something is necessarily good or bad. I'll end with
I
that.
totally agree. I mean, that's one of the main messages I would have here. There's no good or bad rates anywhere. And I think it really, like I mentioned, there are myriad things we could have looked at, but there was just not enough time and money to do that. I think the main thing for this is to communicate to the public and to the commission. A lot of you have been in the water business, so but that it is very case specific. It's very complicated, and that I'm confident that pretty much every board and council in this county is doing everything they can to keep the water rates as low as possible. We also want to make sure that they don't perform their duty and let capital improvements that are really needed keep getting kicked down the road. There might have to find some different funding sources or different ways with the legislature to give water agencies some freedom, and maybe having inclining block rates be legal based on financial situations. But those have all been found illegal. I know the city went through a long lawsuit on this, didn't work out so awesome, and we got everybody's in handcuffs right now. So
Really appreciate the discussion, and we look forward to seeing the final report.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, anybody have written comments, send them in. We'll get it done.
Yeah, really good. Okay.
Yes, they were. Yes, they were.
Okay, great. All right, let's turn to item 7C. This is a request to authorize the city's advisory committee to conduct meetings remotely. Turn that over to staff.
Good morning, Commission. Because of the change in state law, we have a new opportunity. So as probably many of you know, SB 707 went into effect January 1st of this year. It's the most substantial change of the Brown Act in a decade. And it does two things. It increases the opportunities for teleconferencing for members of a legislative body, such as yourself. And it balances that against the public's access to meetings remotely. So the one I want to bring to your attention is this new exception for subsidiary bodies. The city's ad hoc meets the definition of a subsidiary body because it's advisory only, it's created by this commission, and it doesn't take any final action on anything related to taxes, budgets, etc. So it meets the definition. And the real benefit to this advisory body, or rather to this teleconferencing exception, is that it allows the body to meet entirely remote. So as you may know, this ad hoc is composed of city managers who are very busy, and it's very difficult to get them in a single location. As I understood from our EO, we've had trouble with quorum because it's difficult to get them all together. So this allows them to be fully remote, with the exception that we identify a physical location and that staff has to take those meetings from that physical location. And I believe the physical location that's been identified is LAFCO's office. So if the commission decides to adopt this resolution and make the findings within the resolution, then you will authorize the ad hoc to meet fully remote for 6 months. And then you'll have to revisit this resolution again in 6 months. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you. All right, let's go to public comment. We have one, Dion Akers.
Good morning, Chair Becker, staff, honorable commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I just wanted to take a chance to speak on this item actually as a member of the CIC myself and representing Solana Beach, and our city manager, Alyssa Muda, who is also a member of the CIC, just would chime in and echo staff's comments about the difficulty in meeting quorum for these meetings. It's an advisory group. Certainly of this commission, but there's important work that is done there. And having been in a situation where I've scheduled time, attended, but then the meeting is called to an end before it begins because of a quorum is something that we've experienced, not just with this group, but others throughout the region. Like I said, as a former CIC member myself, I would just note that LAFCO is a region-wide body, right? And it's easy for me in Claremont to make it here, but folks who are in Humul or even Rancho Mirado or the far reaches of the county, it's a larger drive, and the impacts of the meeting schedule and changing those meetings is even more so. So we want to be mindful of that. I'd also just recognize and appreciate LAFCO taking a stab at addressing SB 707, which, as staff recommended, is a significant and big change to the Brown Act. I know myself and many others are looking to see how SB 707 and its implementation will affect public meetings and in this space and in others. Maybe the last thing I would add, though, is as much as I share the hope that virtual meetings will lead to more meetings and more work getting done, there is a lot of benefit in in-person meetings. I certainly enjoy coming and seeing you all. The interactions that we have with staff and each other, before, after, and during the meetings count for a lot. Again, maybe interesting in hybrid motion, on hybrid availability, or as we come back in 6 months to look at some changes that might be worth considering. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the comment. Is there a hybrid in this, is that possible? And I guess it would be, I don't know.
I mean, it's always going to be a hybrid approach because you can always attend physically if you want. There's a physical location identified. It's the commission's office. So to the extent people wanted to come in person, they can. To the extent they want to take the meeting remotely, they can. And members of the public have that same opportunity, either in person or remote. Whatever software they use, probably Zoom.
Vice Chair Willis?
I'd like to make a motion that we do go with staff approval on this.
Very good. Call for the vote.
I think we have a hand raised.
Oh,
You need to.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Sorry. Caller 813, do you have a public comment? Ask her again. Caller 813, do you have a public comment for item 7C?
All right, let's go ahead and vote on this item.
Can I get the maker of the motion one more time? I'm sorry.
Yes, Vice Chair Willis,
Yes, and
seconded
second.
by Commissioner White.
Thank you. Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Willis?
Aye.
Commissioner McKenzie? Commissioner Anderson? Commissioner White? And Commissioner Delaney will vote for Commissioner Browning.
Yes.
So there are 6 in favor with 2 absent. The motion passes.
Very good. Thank you. We have one more item. 7D is adoption of formal parliamentary procedure. This is an action item. Turn that over to staff.
Thank you, Chair. So in the past, the commission has traditionally used Rosenberg's Rules of Order to govern their parliamentary procedure, but it hasn't been adopted formally. So what staff is proposing here is that the rules be amended to adopt Rosenberg's Rules of Order formally, and I'll just quickly touch on the difference between the two. Robert's Rules is, well, I thought I could explain it, but I think if I show you, it's better. So this book is Robert's Rules of Order. You can see it's over an inch thick. And in comparison, you have Rosenberg's Rules, which is just a couple of pages. And Robert's Rules, I think, makes sense if you are a sophisticated body that's meeting very often and with paid staff, and you yourself are paid employees. Rosenberg's Rules, though, make sense when you're meeting once a month, composed largely of a body of volunteers. Rosenberg's Rules was specifically crafted for local public agencies by a judge here in California. It's been adopted by the state bar. It's recommended by both Cal Cities and the CSDA. In comparison, again, Robert's Rules has 98 different motions. Rosenberg's Rules has 14. And really the 14 cover pretty much everything you're ever going to encounter as a body. In addition, staff passed out today, there's a little cheat sheet I prepared, which might make your life easier if you chose to adopt Rosenberg's, because you don't have to bring in the rules itself. You could just refer to that cheat sheet to the extent you want to make any procedural motions. So again, staff's recommendation is that we formally adopt Rosenberg's Rules of Order as the Commission's Rules of Parliamentary Procedure.
I make a motion that we do go with Rosenberg's Rules of Order. Staff.
Very good. Call for the vote.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Willis?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie? Commissioner Anderson? Commissioner White? Commissioner Delaney? There are 6 in favor, 0 opposed, with 2 absent. The motion passes.
Thank you. All right, we are on to the executive officer report.
Very quickly, Chair Becker. So everyone should have in front of you a new version of your local agency directory, which includes, among other things, the faces and names of your advisory committee members, both at the city level and special district level. And I want to thank Megan and Aiden for putting that together. And then also, if you haven't already been contacted by staff, we are doing a soft check-in with members about availability for an alternative meeting date and time. As all of us probably can attest, meeting at 8:15 on a Monday can be challenging, and in particular challenging for the public to get here. Not to say, well, everything is on the floor. So we will be querying all the commissioners, if we haven't already, on the availability of some alternate times. Obviously, Tuesdays and Wednesdays are spoken for the county, but we are looking at other times, including perhaps towards the evening. But no decisions. We're just trying to get a pulse of options. Okay. Nevertheless, we will be checking in with either you or your staff, so be on the out.
Okay, any other commissioner announcements or requests for future items? Yes, Commissioner Delaney.
Can we just do 10 o'clock on Monday?
We know that unfortunately is challenging for City of San Diego.
Very good. Okay.
Now it's a
Yeah. Yes.
Closed session. Monday's closed sessions.
Yeah, Mondays are close. So it's possible this is the best option, but we want to at least, with the chair's blessing, query the commissioners. And if there's another option that works, we'll present it to you. If not, we looked.
Okay, good. All right. This meeting is adjourned until April 6th, 2026.
Awesome. Good.